In Pit Lane, proudly brought to you by Online Invent, websites, digital marketing and custom software.
Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane. We're coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be down at Albert Park for the running of the Australian Formula 1 Grand Prix and for the Australian debut of International Formula 3 and International Formula 2. Joining us a little bit later on in the show will be a young Australian who will be competing in Formula 3 at Albert Park. He's fresh off of his Formula 3 debut in Bahrain just recently. Good friend of the show for many years. He's Hugh Barter. He'll be joining us a little bit later on in the program. We've got some great live music coming up for you a little bit later on. Sarah is going to join us, Sarah Eida is going to join us and play us out a little bit later on in the program, so stay tuned for that. Doc is with us once again, and Doc, once again, we are very tight on time.
All tight on time, all guns blazing. You were very, very tight on pitches as well, though, too. Got some lovely shots from Rob Roy over the weekend.
We did, and speaking of Rob Roy, that's one of the stories that will be featured in tonight's In Pit Lane Motorsport News.
The sport of hill climbing is one of the oldest forms of motorsport in the world. The concept is simple. I can get to the top of the hill faster than you can. The Rob Roy track around an hour's northeast of Melbourne is the oldest hill climb track in Australia and one of the oldest in the world. After substantial rebuilding and renovation, it reopened for business last weekend with a celebration of the track's glorious past.
It was almost an eventful start to the reopening of the famous Rob Roy Hillclimb in Smith's Gully, northeast of Melbourne. The ceremonial drive through the red ribbon almost saw the timing gear taken out, but disaster was averted and the rest of the day went off without a hitch. First used in 1937, the oldest hill climb track in Australia has reopened after an extensive rebuild, improving conditions for competitors, officials and spectators alike.
The track has been completely resurfaced, so it's a really good motorsport track. We've added a chicane after turn 2 to make the track even more interesting. There's a new return road that doesn't mean that cars have to come back onto part of the track to get back to the pit area. That's for a much more efficient running process. We've got a new tyre cleaning area in front of the start line, so we don't have to go past the start line to do the tyre cleaning and then back up and then start again, so the whole place is a lot more efficient. We're going to be able to run more events and have more cars having more runs every day. We got a very significant grant from the Victorian government under their community motorsport program, $500,000, and the MG Car Club virtually matched that amount with our own contributions and volunteer labour. So putting all of that together, it's nearly $1 million upgrade. And that goes beyond just the things that have happened on the track. We've improved and sealed the internal roads and also the access road coming onto the property. We've got more of what we call these octundas, the 8-sided rotundas that we have here, which enable more functions to be held and more people to be accommodated. So there's a lot of improvement to the amenity of the area, more seating for spectators and things like that. So we'll be able to run more events and more significant events.
The revival was meant to be run over 2 days, but Melbourne's unseasonal burst of extreme summer heat saw Saturday's competition cancelled. Entry numbers were limited and it was a diverse field that lined up for a run up the steep, short but very challenging 695-metre track. One very popular visitor to the track was the patron of the event, John Bow, who manhandled Joe Collegia's big block Corvette up the hill in a number of spectacular runs. The track improvements meant that every class winner also went away with a new track record. But those times are expected to tumble when the Victorian Hill Climb Championships return to the track on July 9. Red Bull Racing has won the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with Sergio Perez leading home teammate Max Verstappen. The race was far from a thriller, but Red Bull's performance was formidable and foreboding. Fernando Alonso finished third for Aston Martin. He was initially demoted to fourth, a decision which was later rescinded after a review by the FIA. It was a mixed weekend for Melbourne's Oscar Piastri with a strong qualifying effort to get into Q3. Contact on lap 1 dropped him back in the field. He recovered to take 15th place, 2 ahead of teammate Lando Norris.
Jack Doohan has made a strong comeback following a disappointing race in Bahrain by securing second place in the F2 feature race in Saudi Arabia. Despite starting in 5th position, Doohan managed to move through the pack to finish just under 4 seconds behind race winner Frederic Vesti. Doohan now sits 6th in the standings as the team gets ready for the category's Australian debut at Albert Park in 2 weeks' time.
Well, an exciting new era of sports car racing got underway last weekend in the USA with the debut of Ferrari in the World Endurance Championship. And it was a chaotic finish to the Sebring 12-hour race. And it's those stories that kick off this week's In Pit Lane International Wrap.
Toyota Gazoo Racing has scored a dominant 1-2 victory in the 2023 FIA World Endurance Championship season opener at Sebring, finishing well ahead of the competition. Mike Conway, Jose Maria Lopez and Kamui Kobayashi took the win, finishing 2.1 seconds ahead of their teammates. In his debut race, the Ferrari 499P, which started on pole position, fell back early and finished a distant third. Peugeot Sport had a disappointing performance, with both cars suffering major mechanical issues and struggling for grip on the bumpy track. Winner in GTE-AM was the Corvette of Ben Keating, Nico Verone and Nicky Katzberg, while in LMP2, Team Toyota's Orica of Yifei, David Beckman and Will Stevens took the win. Also at Sebring, Action Express Racing has won the 2023 12-hour of Sebring for Cadillac, following a multi-car crash that took out the top 3 leaders in the GTP class. The Wayne Taylor Racing Acura of Ricky Taylor, Felipe Albuquerque and Louis Delatraz had been leading comfortably and were in a battle for the lead with the Porsche Penske Motorsport car of Matthew Jaminet, Nick Tandy and Dane Cameron when they collided with slower traffic, taking each other out. Felipe Nasser running third, then collided with the accident, removing the top 3 cars in an instant with only an hour left to go. That left the door open for the Cadillac of Pippo Durrani, Alexander Sims and Jack Aiken to take the win. In LMP2, the Tower Motorsports car of Scott McLaughlin, John Ferrano and Kiffin Simpson won the class and finished third outright. And Joey Logano led the Atlanta 400 NASCAR Cup Series race from start to finish at Atlanta Motor Speedway. With a push from Christopher Bell on the final lap, Logano overtook Brad Keselowski on the outside and crossed the finish line to take the win ahead of Keselowski and Bell. Logano, who grew up racing Legends cars at Atlanta, expressed his excitement at winning at the track where he began his racing career. Logano's victory was the first for Ford this season. The race wasn't without incident, however, with a big 14-car wreck on the back stretch on lap 190 and a 5-car accident on lap 209.
And you're watching In Pit Lane. When we come back, we'll be joined by our special guest, Formula 3 driver Hugh Barter. And we've got music coming up from Sarah Eida later on in the program. But right now, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Get the phone ringing for your business with website development and SEO services from Online Invent. Visit onlineinvent.com.au.
Yes, and once again, thank you to Roy and the team from Online Event. If you're a racing team, if you're an event promoter, if you're a car club, if you're looking to do social media properly, talk to Roy and the guys from Online Invent, because they're the people who know how to make this stuff work. It takes a lot of time, and trust me, they know all the tricks to make it work and make it efficient. No point having a social media presence if you're not using it properly, if you don't know what's going on. So thank you to Roy and everybody from Online Invent. And Roy once again was out at Rob Roy, and some of those shots you saw on the news were from Roy as well. So we thank him for once again again for his support and online event support of In Pit Lane, Channel 31 and RMITV. But right now we're going to give you, as a bonus track for all of you watching live on YouTube at the moment, we're going to give you a bonus track from our musical guest tonight, Sarah Eida. She's from the band Howling Mountain, and they'll be gigging around the place very, very soon. We'll have more details of that a little bit later on when we go back to Channel 31. But right now, get ready for this. You're going to like this. This is Sarah Eida from Howling Mountain and Sky Cry Tonight.
I thought you already said goodbye. Season a reason all for the rest of your life. Season a reason all for the rest of my life. Let the sky cry tonight. Let the sky cry tonight. Let the sky cry tonight. Tonight. It's only change, but I can already see the light. Let the sky cry tonight. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Ooh.
Sarah Eida and Sky Cry Tonight.
Lovely.
We'll have more from Sarah a little bit later on in the program. And thank you, Sarah, for coming in. Sarah got us out of strife. Our original muso for tonight pulled out at the last minute yesterday, and Sarah put her hand up and said, "Yeah, I can come in." And you're gigging around Melbourne, are you at the moment? You're in the band.
I definitely am. Yeah. Later next month in April, we've got 2 shows coming up.
Where at, Sarah?
Yeah, so Friday the 28th of April is the Bergie Seltzer. We're headlining, and then on Saturday night we're supporting Raising Ravens from New South Wales at Whole Lotta Love Bar on the 29th of April.
Where's the Whole Lotta Love Bar?
Whole Lotta Love Bar is in East Brunswick.
Okay, that's lovely, but nice and local. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
And you have stuff on Spotify or iTunes or any of those at the moment?
Yes, definitely. We got the Spotify. We're on Bandcamp. We are on iTunes. We are on Instagram, Facebook.
Easiest search engine. Look up.
Yes,
Howling Mountain.
Linktree.
Linktree.
There's
Yep.
we have a Linktree.
Yep.
You can Google us, and it's all there. If you go on our Instagram, the Linktree is in the info.
Lovely.
It's all set.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. We're coming up in a couple of weeks' time, of course, the Australian Formula One Grand Prix down at Albert Park. But what's big and different about this year is for the first time ever, we will get to see the whole package. We get to see not just Formula One, but also Formula 2, where Jack Doohan is competing, and a number of Australians competing in Formula 3. One of them is Melbourne's own, a regular on the program, came onto the show many, many years ago. We'll ask him about that in just a moment. But he's going to make his debut, his Formula 3 debut locally at Albert Park after the first round at Bahrain recently, and he is Hugh Barter. Hugh, welcome to In Pit Lane again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Now, when did you first come? I was trying to figure out. It was a long time ago. How old were you when you first appeared on the show?
I'm going to say 11.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I'm just taking a rough estimate.
You've grown up a little since then.
A little.
There. So, yes.
A few centimetres and a few seat fittings, I bet, as well, though, too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, it was a huge move. It was something, the thing that I remember from your first appearance on the show and subsequent appearances since then is you were always very focused on an international career and getting eventually to Formula One. That meant basically the whole family just, basically upping shop, heading over to Europe. Last time we spoke to you during the pandemic, we were talking to you from Le Mans, where you were living at the time, but you've moved now, and so where have you gone now?
Yeah, so currently we're living in Spain because this year I'm racing with Campos Racing, so it's just logistically easier if we live 30 minutes from the factory. But yeah, at the moment I spend my days going to the factory, training in the morning, and then coming back studying for school, and then getting prepared for any events that come up.
So you're still studying?
Correct. I do online school through VSV. It's like Virtual Schools Victoria. So I do VCE still, and still.
Back here in Australia?
No, it's all online. So
yeah, online, but I'm saying
on the same curriculum.
It's the same curriculum as back in Australia, and you can get to follow your schooling right through here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
That's fantastic as well,
so
though, too.
Still doing that.
Bit of a juggling act, though.
Yeah, it's very busy because the schedule with racing is you're constantly traveling, so it can get really tight. Luckily, my teachers are very flexible with SACs, and I actually have one coming up this weekend, so I have to do that.
We know what you do with schooling, and we know what you probably do to a certain extent with your physical education each day and your routine. But what do you do at the factory when you're there?
So this ranges. When we do sim work, it's sometimes to do with correlation to the car. We'll change the physics engine to try and match the tyre model or the aero model a bit better because you can always improve it in some sort of way. I think we do a lot of trying to improve the driver's cognitive skills. So we do like lights while we drive in the sim. We also try to look at the post-event and the pre-event before a race because we want to see, okay, what are our strong points, what are our weak points, what can we improve on? And it's basically an endless battle to try and Improve.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for the insight.
So what are the facilities like? Campos is a very, very big team, and they run across a whole range of categories. Apart from the actual workshop itself for the cars, what are the facilities like there? Do they have their own gym, or do they have their there? So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so they have their own gym, they have their own personal trainer. Obviously, we have our own simulator. We have 2 simulators, so we can race each other on the sim and basically get a bit of racecraft and get an idea, where the overtaking opportunities are and all this sort of stuff. And then the whole bottom layer is just full of engineering rooms. You know, there's people from F4, F3, F2. We have a team for F1 Academy. We have another F3 team, which is for another series. So there are
must be high fives going around everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think this year, I think Campos itself is racing 5 different series, so it's quite busy and there's a lot of work going on constantly.
Now, of course, we mentioned the first time in Australia we're going to see Formula 3 and Formula 2. For people who haven't seen or don't know too much about it, explain Formula 3. I mean, what are the regulations? Because when I think of Formula 3, I'm thinking, you know, 2-litre, normally aspirated engines, things like, you know, Rolt RT4s, that sort of thing. But these are very different cars now, aren't they?
Yeah, I actually don't know the specs that well, to be honest. I know obviously the top speed is 310. I think in kg the car is 600 combined with the driver. It ranges because every year they take an average weight of the cars and the drivers and then they make a new weight. So it's a bit more fair for everyone, you know, because
and the whole thing that they want to do with it, I mean, both in Formula 3 and Formula 2 now, is you've got things like DRS and all of the things. They want to make it as close to the Formula 1 experience as it can be, don't they?
Honestly, without DRS, I don't think passing would be possible because it's when you get close, it's impossible to follow. Like after you get within a second, half a second, it's just understeer.
Got to thank you both here because this sets up my question perfectly. Back in F4 in France in the season as well, you did 2 seasons within another category as well, but you had 10 first places, I think it was, 14 podiums and 13 qualifying fastest laps.
Yeah.
What have you taken most out? I know it's a big stat. It's huge. It's, congratulations and all that. What have you taken most out of the F4 into the F3s that you had to adapt? What's the...
Yeah, I think the 2 series were very different. The French F4 being run by a federation, so basically all 25 drivers were under the same team, while the Spanish F4 was, you know, I think it was 6 teams, each team having 6 drivers, and so the atmosphere is very different. I think the French F4, what taught me was, you know, how to lead a championship, because to lead a championship is one thing and to be fighting for the championship is another. You know, you really have to control yourself and, you know, come into the weekend thinking about points, because I actually didn't score points for 2 rounds in the French F4. That's why I was runner-up, but, you know, that's a different thing. And
just must have been tight.
Yeah, it was really tight. I actually didn't score 100.
So how different are the cars, you know, from the Formula 4 cars? I mean, is it chalk and cheese?
Between the 2 Formula 4 cars?
The Formula 4 and Formula 3.
Yeah, it's quite different. The biggest difference is probably the aero. Aero is massive in the F3. You know, there are some corners in Italy where you're cornering at 230 kilometers. You know, that's the apex speed. That's the top speed of the F4. So, you know, it's a lot more physical. I'd say it's still, for me at least, it's okay, and I'm able to handle it. I was expecting a lot more when I jumped from the F4, but yeah, I think the big difference is just aero.
Well, we're going to find out more about what your plans are for the future when we come back. But we're going to take a break right now here on Channel 31. And when we come back, we'll have more from Hugh Barter. Also, we'll have music from our special guest tonight, Sarah Eida from the band Howling Mountain. You're watching In Pit Lane right across Melbourne and Geelong on Channel 34. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Our guest tonight is Hugh Barter. He's going to be in action at Albert Park in a couple of weeks' time in the International Formula 3, the debut of the category in Australia. And Hugh, you're not the only, I mean, you're the hometown boy, certainly coming from Melbourne. I mean, you are a Melbourne boy, but we've got other Australians in the field, in the Formula 3 field. Tell us about sort of how you get along with those guys. I mean, is it sort of like a little group, or do you sort of, you know...
When we see each other, we tend to speak a lot and, you know, talk about actually a lot about this upcoming race. But outside of that, not really. You know, we stay in our own teams. Tommy Smith stays in Van Amersfoort and Christian and I stay in Campos. There's not really much time on a race weekend to go wander and talk to other people. There's a lot of work going on and trying to just maximise the weekend, basically. So
just quickly on your Hugh Barter website, you've got a lot of quotes from a lot of famous drivers. Did you pick those out yourself?
Yeah.
And who inspires you with all that stuff?
As in, like, who inspires to...
Which ones are your favourite ones?
Yeah,
drivers?
I think the classic, is always Ayrton Senna's. If you see gap and don't make it, I think you're no longer a racing car driver. But I think it's a bit overused. There's also, I think, Emerson Fittipaldi's one where he says, if the car's not on the limit, or if the lap feels good, it's not close enough to the limit. There's so many, there's too many to pick from. But yeah.
Awesome. So what are obviously the long-term plan that you're hoping is Formula One, but I mean, it doesn't just come down, we know that it doesn't come down just to talent as well. Let's face it, money plays a huge role in it. From what you know, from what you've learned so far and all the study you've done, let's say everything goes brilliantly. You actually, you do an Oscar Piastri, you win Formula 3 this year, you win Formula 2, and you've suddenly, Formula One's in front of you. If you don't have that sort of, backing from, one of the driver development academies, what sort of money are they saying? Like, hey, Hugh, we'd love to have you at Williams. How much? What sort of money are we looking at?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Like, I think
it is millions, though, isn't it? It is literally millions.
I would say so. There's people like Zhao that paid, who knows what to get into Sauber. But I think that's something that I have to worry about further down the line. At the moment, I'm more focused on performing in F3 and F2 and just trying to make the most of the moment.
Long-term goal, though, F1. I knew Brett would ask you that. We lined that up really, did we? Had a laugh about that earlier. Brett would ask you that question. We predicted, we had a crystal ball out. But what sort of year, how many years did you want before you actually get there?
I think
sort of the grand plan.
Maximum I want to spend 4 years before I get to F1. 2 years in F2, 2 years in F3. So it'll be around 4 years.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll be right behind you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good luck at Albert Park. As I said, Hugh's been a part of the program. I mean, the last time we were here and saw each other in the flesh was that fateful day at Federation Square where we sat on the stage and sort of watched the whole meeting unravel in front of our eyes. But hopefully we won't have those problems this year, and it'll be a great experience for you. If you go into the Grand Prix, catch up as we saw with Andrew Westacott said like a couple of weeks ago, and David Corrigan said that the Formula 2 and Formula 3 will be very accessible, far more than you would get overseas. So catch up with Hugh and all the Australians. But Hugh's got a special place for us because he's part of the In Pit Lane family. So good luck with both this year and for the rest of your career. But we'll keep in touch. And now thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And thank you for you watching at home. Now, coming up next week on the program, we'll have our full Grand Prix preview. But right now, we're going to take you out with some live music. Sarah Eida is part of the band Howling Mountain, and they're playing all over Melbourne at the moment. We've got some details popping up on the screen in a second, I believe. There you are, supporting Raising Ravens at the Bergie Seltzer, and also the Whole Lot of Love Bar on the 29th of April. But right now, you're going to hear from Sarah, and she's going to take us out with her song, Give Me Something. So until we see you next week, good night. And here's Sarah Eida with Give Me Something.
I wanna see you smile, I wanna hear your laughter, I wanna have a drink with all my friends. But I don't like fear, and I don't like control. The pressure keeps on going, so give me something to believe in. Give me something to die for, a vision I can see from afar. Give me something to feel, something to breathe for, something worth a while for. I feel a little dead, I feel a little dying, but there ain't no crying in baseball. I try to suck it up when I have a little fun, but it ain't the same in my prison. No, it ain't the same in my from afar. Something to feel, something to breathe for, something worth a while for. Hey. Give me something to believe. Give me something to feel. Give me something to breathe. Give me something to believe. Give me something to feel. Give me something to breathe. Give me something to believe in. Give me something to die for. Vision I can see from afar. Something to breathe. Something to feel for. Something worth the while for. Something worth it while for.
Don't go away, we'll be right back.